Listen.
Aldnoah.Zero is the newest iteration of the mecha genre that I kind of grew up watching and loving with the space opera and everything, so I figured I'd give it a shot. And then when I found out it was published by Aniplex, then I just kind of realised this is either going to be tolerable or pretty shit, because Aniplex is synonymous for being hit or miss. Plus, I also just recently learned that they're going to be coming up with a Season 1 DVD Blu-ray 2-disc set on July 21st, equipped with the English dub and the Spanish sub. And, well, I have to admit, this intrigued me a little bit, so upon my research of it, I came across a promotional video of the voice actors, I guess, trying to tell what the story was about. And it's by far the worst teaser I've ever seen. The voice actors themselves refer to Slain as a Martian, and then make light of the storyline by saying it's just Slain and Inaho fighting over a Celium. I don't know who their marketer is, but that's complete crap. And like, even WWE Creative might be able to think of something better than that. But I'll put a link in the description box below in case you haven't seen it yet. With that bit over with, let's just come out of the gates with the review. And I personally don't put much stock into animation since it's a purely aesthetic aspect that is subjective depending on your level of expertise with graphics and overall tolerance. But for Christ's sakes, the mix looks like stop motion Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer props thrown into an anime. The terrible CGI and awkward placement of the musical interludes really ruin the initial immersion of the show. So even if they didn't impact my overall score much, it was still beyond terrible for a first season. And second season it got better, but it was still pretty rough. And the battle scenes were, well, fairly nice, given each of the Martian cataphracts had a unique ability that made it a little fresh to watch each battle. Characters are unfortunately another section where the anime fails miserably. The stoic robotic wunderkind who can outmaneuver and knows more scientific applications of the environment than seasoned military veterans gets to be our wondrous OP main character, Inoho Kaisuke. Within the first 2 episodes, he watches his entire city get destroyed, a close childhood friend slip from his grasp to his death, watches the assassination of a Martian princess, and tons of destruction, all while showing the same amount of emotion as a Randy Orton promo.
So that's what you think, Rick. That's what you think.
The rest of the Earth cast isn't even worth wasting breath on. The only other 2 characters worth mentioning are the Martian/Terran protagonist, Slain Troyard, who's the literal whipping boy for all of the shortcomings of the Martian army in the beginning, due to him being a transplanted Earthling, and it's just fun for them to beat the crap out of him, I guess. I don't know, that seemed to be the theme of the first season. And Count Sazbom, who's perceived as the main antagonist in the first season, and he's the mastermind behind the initial underhanded deeds that went on to kick the show off. Both of these characters heavily influence the other as the series goes on, and their interactions are completely pivotal in why the second season even happens, so they're easily the 2 best characters in the show. Having dueling protagonists was an interesting aspect to the show, but it quickly became tedious, because instead of fully fleshing out one side or one scope of the story, you had half and half was Slain, half was Inaho, and it just amplified the fact that they were nearly polar opposites striving for similar goals. This also hurt the overarching kind of concept of who was on what side. I mean, even in the United Earth Forces and the Martian Orbital Knights, there were small sects with their own beliefs and own goals and own reasons why they were fighting, and they just got covered up conveniently with people owing people favors or They just happened to be in the right spot at the right time, and it was just patchwork after patchwork, and it was very frustrating to watch. The most disappointing character was Lieutenant Marito, who had possibly the most poorly handled case of PTSD ever recorded or represented in any medium. I mean, I understand exposure therapy, but usually people suffering from PTSD can't even reference the day, the situation, or anything pertaining to the trauma causing them their PTSD. And in episode 1, Marito was just talking about it over his drink with the doctor, like it was yesterday. And they seem like they don't understand the concept of a psychological disorder and a psychosomatic ill. Because even though exposure therapy, which is how they handled it, is how you can handle some versions of PTSD, it's usually in a safe and secure environment, and you just recreate the trigger points with no actual repercussions. You don't throw the person into a giant robot and tell them to go face their fear, because it's like telling your little son to get over his fear of heights and have him climb the ladder and clean the gutters. It's completely ridiculous. It honestly feels like they just wanted a grizzled war veteran for random plot exposition when they got to certain aspects of the past. So they decided to just throw him in there and give him a cool disorder, like, you know, he's trying to pick a disability for like a Dungeons and Dragons character. Like, it's I can't even describe how stupid and poorly handled it actually was. Not to mention, from a story perspective, they never closed the loop between him, his best friend Humre, and Captain Marbridge. It's just, they just ignore the whole thing almost in the second season. It's just, suddenly it just happens to work out positively for him, and he can use it to get out of a situation, and he has control of it now, so he beat his disorder, even though we still don't know what exactly came of him and Marbridge, and if that went anywhere or what. I don't know. Too many plot holes and so many convenient just answers. Ugh. I do give the show credit because it didn't lean on the heavily female cast to draw in half-assed attempts at fan service moments and jiggly bits and all that other stuff. Yes, there was one beach episode, but it was supposed to be their last little bit of downtime before the war started, so that's understandable. There was one episode where an assassination attempt happened in a shower room. Sure, there was lots of steam, it was censored out, but it wasn't like, ooh, look, naked women. It was, she tried to kill this person here. This just happens to be the scene, go with it. The show did try to focus more on the political chess game and the fights and the actual war at hand, but one of the major problems that it also had, aside from the other ones I pointed out, was the fact that it was like a high school mecha show. Every situation was so eye-rolly and just typical high school bullcrap. It was, like the mystical love rhombus that goes on in this show is similar to like boy A likes girl B, but girl B sees him as a friend. Girl B likes boy C, but girl D also likes boy C, and boy C is oblivious to girl D. Boy C kinda likes girl B, but girl B has to go with boy E because of political implications. Girl F likes boy A, but boy A was just using girl F and never reciprocates the affection. So no one gets laid, virginity wins, and everybody just sits around and cries all day. See, I told you, stupid high school drama in space with clunky Lego CGI robots. There was no real moment of catharsis. All the storylines just kinda ran into one another at the very end, and as the dust settles on this boring fight that could have been so much more impactful if people actually cared about the characters, they decide to abandon any hope of redeeming the show, much less redeeming the ending, with something so bland and
Predictable!
The ending is so lame that it actually makes all of the Care Bears movies look like Saw in comparison. When you're trying to push for a final battle that's climactic, maybe if you had a little bit of strife or development on the characters at the very end, That would be really nice, instead of feigning some final sacrifice for some stupid ass just, well, fuck it reasoning, and then everybody decides to keep fighting anyway. It was... what the hell were you thinking? When it comes to the final rating, you can see the breakdown here. But personally, I give it a 35 out of 100. But the review rating gives it 41 out of 100. So either way, it still fails. And I'm just gonna tell you to stream it, otakos. Never watch the dub either. Unless you're torturing people. Because if you're torturing people, you should buy 2, maybe even 3. It's just such a pile of crap. Oh, and one last thing. The whole, do you know why you can't get a date line between the XO and the captain? Were the writers really just trying to create a viral meme? Because holy crap, that line got so repetitive and annoying. The more she said it, the more I wanted to just punch her in the face. Not sure if it was supposed to just break the monotony or whatever, but it was completely asinine. Well, is it the worst show? Nah, not the worst. But should you invest time in Alda? What he said.
This one ain't over till